Well, hello, hello. I welcome you very warmly to another spread on the channel. I am, of course, David, and today I will try to check for you who is heading your way, whether this energy even exists, whether someone is appearing in your field, whether it's a person you already know, or maybe someone new. So we'll see if someone is appearing in your field, some new person, someone fresh, someone new. So it's basically a spread typically for singles, although not only probably, because maybe also for those who are in relationships, but well, there can always be an admirer. You can always have an admirer, right? So I think it's quite a universal spread for everyone. We'll see what's happening in your field and what you might expect perhaps in the coming days, weeks, months. We'll see what the cards show us, and I'll try to determine the actual time frame, that is when this person might appear and who they will be, who it will be. So of course, I warmly invite you to listen. We'll see who is heading your way and who this person is, what they intend to do, when this will happen. So let's look at this. I warmly invite you. Of course, every card in this reading is a different card and also speaks about something different, so it's worth listening to the end, not leaving too soon, because you might miss part of this message. So let's see what appears here today. And we start quite interestingly because we start with the Justice card, that is quite justice, judgment, judgment. Of course, these cards always somehow associate with each other for me and kind of get mixed up, but we have Judgment, which is a card that in the first position is like a cosmic doorbell that says, hello package, package delivery, please open. And Judgment in this position means that you're just going through some great spiritual awakening, such a total rebirth on the level of heart and soul. Imagine that recently you were like a sleepy princess in a tower, except that no prince was coming on a white horse because you had to wake up first yourself. And right now the angelic trumpets are playing fanfares, because something inside you finally said enough of the old life, time for something new. And this awakening is crucial, because new love couldn't enter an old dusty room full of old memories and unfinished stories. And you know what's most beautiful in all this? Well, this card says that behind the scenes, a powerful alchemy is happening. The world is literally rearranging the elements of your life like puzzles, so everything falls into its place. So all those lessons you went through, those moments when you thought, why is this happening to me? Those moments of loneliness that seemed to make no sense, it was all preparation of the ground for something bigger. As if you were planting a garden and wondering why the soil is so empty while the roots are already growing underneath. You just can't see them on the surface yet. It also speaks of closing karma, such a karmic bank account where you had some debts to pay off from the past, maybe even from previous incarnations, if you believe in that, or simply from previous relationships that left traces. Those debts are being paid off right now. Imagine that the universe has such a big book and is just writing settled, closed, you can move on. That's why this love is closer than you think, because the energy barriers that stood in the way are dissolving like ice cream on a sunny day. Except that instead of sticky hands, you have a clean heart ready for a new beginning. One more quite important thing, because Judgment is a card of collective destiny. This means that not only are you prepared for this meeting, but the other person is too. So somewhere out there, maybe even close by, someone is going through a similar process of cleansing and awakening, and two souls that are meant to meet must be at a similar level of vibration, and this synchronization is happening right now, like two instruments being tuned before a concert so that they can then obviously play some beautiful melody together. So the energy that's now in motion is the energy of transformation, but a deep one at the DNA level of the soul. It's not about you changing your hairstyle or starting to go to the gym, although if you want to, you can, but the fact that your inner self is rising from the ashes like a phoenix, that's the key to this situation, right? So this is, I would say, something worth paying attention to here. And we have the world. We have the world in the second position. Quite unclear, actually, this inscription, but you can see it's the world. You can see it's the world card. And this is interesting. These are two major arcana cards, and it's a bit like pulling an ace out of your sleeve, only twice in a row. The universe really isn't holding back on the fireworks here. You can see that this person won't be just anyone from a random meeting by the store beer fridge, laughter, but rather someone more refined. The world as a description of a person is someone who has such fullness, such inner fulfillment, that this energy of completeness just radiates from them. Because, there are people who walk into a room and you immediately feel that they are with themselves somehow, that they are someone specific, that they're not desperately looking for someone to fill a hole in their heart, because they patched that hole up themselves long ago. So this person has gone through their own path, their own lessons. They probably also had difficult love experiences, but they grew from them like a tree that a storm only strengthened. Somewhere it blew, bent it a bit, but it's still standing. So now standing before you is someone ready for a mature, complete relationship, not for any games. This is important. This will be a person with a broad perspective on life. Someone who probably traveled a lot, or if not physically traveled, then mentally, spiritually. It shows a person open to different cultures, philosophies, ways of thinking. Perhaps she herself will be somewhere out there, just such a worldly person who has already experienced certain cultures, who is open to new things, who also likes to experiment, or in a certain sense, she is has an open mind, because of course we're talking about experimenting in the context of just some such unusual things experienced together, for example. So in that direction. And what strikes me most powerfully in this card, yes, most forcefully from the whole deck, is that this person will have something very harmonious within them, such a balance between different aspects of life. This won't be the type who is great at work, but is a total disaster with emotions, or is super romantic, but completely disorganized in life. The world shows someone who has arranged all these elements for themselves, who knows what they want and isn't afraid to say it, but at the same time is flexible and open to compromises. This could be someone international, kind of, because the world is, such a card. Well, the world, right? So somewhere there, perhaps internationally, this could have some international connections, or related precisely to a larger community. Maybe someone from another city, maybe someone you'll meet through common interests, connecting people from different backgrounds. Something like that could happen here. So observe these precisely interesting interests of yours, or some such things that, aren't really a dating app that measures people within 10 kilometers of your city, but rather somewhere in some other spheres, I would say. So this looks pretty damn interesting, and it shows me a person who, seems to be perhaps from far away. Well, but since we know who this person is, more or less, of course, we can check when potentially this person might appear. And here, 10 of Cups. And here you can say that this card is such a cherry on top of the timeline, because it speaks of the culmination of happiness at the moment when everything falls into a beautiful whole. Okay, but to say specifically what this is about, because it's not that easy, this isn't at all I'll say now that it's Friday the 13th in July or something, right? It's more like when someone asks me when this will happen, it's a bit like waiting for a bus, and the universe says, relax, this stop is closer than you think. The bus will be here soon. Just stop nervously staring at the timetable. So it's not exactly the kind of bus that suddenly arrives at a precise time. Especially now when we have winter weather and we're wearing quite a lot of layers, buses can be unpredictable. However, the 10 of Cups indicates a time related to family, home, family holidays, or gatherings with loved ones. So this could mean that you'll meet this person around some everyday, family event, I wanted to say, maybe a wedding of someone close, maybe a christening, maybe Aunt Krisha's birthday, who always invites the whole family, plus neighbors, plus random people from the street, because she thinks the more guests, the better. So maybe something like that. This is, of course, half joking, but, such a family gathering, something might be in that direction, or something festive. Easter is probably the nearest such, let's say, major holiday, a time when people gather. So, yeah, maybe Easter here, so somewhere in spring. Well, that sounds quite darn interesting. That would mean basically a few months, 2, 3, 4 months, something like that. The 10 of Cups might be talking about this. This is the family card, so, unless you have some closer birthdays that are planned, calendar ones that ideally happen on the same day every year, then maybe that occasion could be it too. It's also interesting because these are actually family holidays, so, you might have this question: at family holidays, I'm unlikely to meet someone internationally. Here, of course, the cards are talking about timing, which can obviously coincide. For example, you'll be at this birthday party, but it will be boring. Your uncle will start talking about politics again, so you'll decide that no, if they're going to argue about politics, maybe it's better to go play a game on your phone. And then suddenly some message will come, or something like that, right? Randomly, somehow, somewhere, you'll see something, some post. So that's the timing aspect, right? This doesn't necessarily have to be strictly related to this particular party, but somewhere around this event, there might be meeting someone who will be this more interesting individual. So what I'm getting at is that it's only about timing. not necessarily about the holiday itself. In the meantime, I invite you to arcanemoonshop.com.pl. If you need a private reading, if you have some other question for the cards that's bothering you somewhere there, you don't know what to do with it, well, maybe I can help. So I invite you to arcanemoonshop.com. There you'll find my private readings. Meanwhile, let's see what shows up next, because, well, I'm curious. We already have more or less the time, right? So we know, well, more or less, but still we know how long we should expect to wait for this someone, this person. Of course, this spread doesn't indicate that this will be a relationship forever, or that this will be a binding relationship, you know, but it indicates that this will be someone who potentially will be, you'll be interested in them. I'll put it that way. Well, obviously something else might come up during the relationship that you'll decide that actually this isn't the one, this isn't the guy, but it will be someone interesting, and that, in my opinion, is already worth noting somewhere. Queen of Pentacles in the 4th position, meaning where or how you will meet. And here specifically we have the Queen of Coins. This is a practical card, concrete in its indications. The Queen of Coins isn't some mystical fog and somewhere there, you know, that kind of card, like maybe somewhere by the water. She says straight out, everyday life, work, or even finances, health, home, shopping. So maybe that beer shelf in the store, maybe not. Well, I'm joking, of course, but maybe Christmas shopping. You won't be doing Christmas shopping, and suddenly click, some Latino pops up on your vacation, came to Poland to visit family or something, laughter, and suddenly it turns out that some Spaniard or something, and there's some crush, or you think to yourself, Jesus, how he looks. Well, that of course sounds quite like a movie. The Queen of Pentacles indicates, I would rather say no, because the Queen of Pentacles is like, this is a queen, right? So she's like, well, but still Pentacles, so probably not in that direction. I guess it won't be such a meeting, but still without fireworks, I would say, without any big scenes, rather something like that, accidental. Maybe you'll order something from the internet, you'll order something online, right? And suddenly a courier arrives, you open the door for him and look at him, and he's like, well, looks pretty good. Then you'll order something a second time, because you'll decide that, damn, well, let's see if the same one will come, and maybe this courier, maybe he's the one. Laughter. I don't know, but I'm trying to connect the dots here, because it's around the holidays. So maybe some online shopping. I don't know, maybe a gift for someone, or a gift for yourself, maybe some table decoration. Pay attention to this, because it could be that. I'm not sure, who knows, but somehow I'm connecting it like that. That here for sure, when you see him, you'll immediately say, oh wow, the reaction will be quite telling, I would say, so that will sort of give you that sign that this could be the person, because you'll feel it, right? I also talked about this with the World card, that you'll feel it, like, why, this is something. So I think you'll sense that person, and that would also mean for me, well, because I'm basically heading in the direction now that this meeting might be more physical than through the internet, and it might actually be like that. So now I'm thinking that since these shopping trips, this family during the holidays, well, maybe it will be a physical meeting. Of course, not in a family setting, in the sense that, you know, suddenly some guest barges in on you for the holidays or for some party, although maybe actually a party. So who knows? Maybe it will be some party, I don't know, somewhere in some hall. Someone will show up there and say, I'm not from here, but maybe I can celebrate with you or something. So well, obviously I'm drifting off a bit here, laughter, but well, I'm trying in a way to put this into practice a bit, so that you also have an idea of what I mean with all these cards, because sometimes I have the feeling that I talk too little about such ordinary practical things, despite the fact that I know that talking about such general things is better, because it's easier to extract such a situation from that, well, from the general to the specific, right? So I speak generally and someone extracts the details for themselves, well, because obviously a collective reading is for a group of people, so not everything will fit everyone perfectly, but maybe it's worth mentioning at least some examples that I have in mind to make it more grounded in practice. Anyway, the 3 was in the 5th position. Well, and this is already a card that, let's say, speaks more concretely about how you'll recognize this person. And here the 3 of Wands for this question. Well, listen, this card has a very characteristic energy too, actually. It's such a person who stands on a hill, looks into the distance at the sea, where his ships are sailing, waiting for the return of something great that he sent into the world. Well, damn. And this is particularly interesting because look, now we're ordering a package, right? So going back to my example, sorry, but now I've latched onto this courier thing, so I'll continue with it as long as it makes sense to me. We send something, we mark an order, let's say there, I don't know, somewhere there, I don't know from where, oh, from some internet portal, and it's coming to us. Often these days it's actually the case that warehouses are located abroad, for example, so it's coming to us from abroad, and what do we expect? We look out the window, where's that courier with our package? Well, you know, it's not that I've latched onto this, but it would actually make sense, wouldn't it? So, the Three of Clubs, well, it's like it's trying to tell us that you'll actually be looking out the window for him. So who are we looking out the window for? The mailman or the courier? I don't know if we look out the window for anyone else. Well, maybe. Unless, I don't know, someone is passing by your house. Someone interesting is coming, and, you know, you look through the window and spy, so to speak, the so-called neighborhood monitoring. So maybe that's what it's about. Anyway, it seems that the Three of Clubs, in the context of how you'll recognize him, would point more to how you'll behave rather than what he'll look like. But that's interesting too. I think an interesting side, right? That it didn't show us that he'll be, I don't know, pimply, but rather what you'll be doing at that moment. Six of Pentacles in the 6th position. What will this person bring? An interesting card, because the Six of Coins is a card of balance, giving and taking, a card of generosity, sharing, but also a card of fair energy exchange. So this could be a relationship where finally things will be more equal. Especially, you know, if the courier hands you the package, you'll say, oh wow, thank you, what a great gift. No, that's obviously a joke. But, well, the Six of Pentacles is about this exchange, meaning you feel you're getting a lot. Of course, you're also giving something. You're giving something too. Well, you did pay for this gift for yourself. Laughter. But I feel this exchange is quite fair. So this is exactly it, right? That gifts for yourself are always the most spot on. Maybe not always, because sometimes we buy something and realize, no, well, this isn't right after all, and we return it, but still, damn, we probably have the best sense of what we want at any given moment. So sorry here about this courier thing, but, well, somehow it kind of stuck with me a bit because it fits pretty well here. But I hope it won't be like, you know, you start ordering packages every day just so this courier comes to you, because that would probably be a bit weird for him. Maybe he'd notice something, although maybe not, maybe. Or when ordering, you'll write that it's pick up on site, that you'll come to him yourself. Laughter, that would be funny. But I hope that, despite everything, this energy has been preserved somewhere, and it's clear what this is about. We joked around a bit, but I think the reading turned out interesting. So thank you very much for listening all the way to the end, because, well, sometimes I think that if I had to listen to myself to the end, I'd probably need a hefty dose of sedatives, and I could either fall asleep. So thanks for listening. I wish you, of course, a beautiful, cheerful day, and I invite you to arcanemoonshop.com if you need a private reading. Meanwhile, thank you once again. See you. Hey!